Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the 1973 podcast. We're here with Behn Wilson, former Philadelphia Flyer, and he's currently in the Bahamas, and we're so glad to have him. And I always say at the end of the show, you're going to be a friend of the podcast, as always. So, Ben, it's happy to have you on a Saturday morning. It's usually not in our wheelhouse to be up this early, unless I get a kids tournament or something like that. But we bend bridges, we move mountains to get you on. So happy to have you. And I always start and ask everybody the same question: is when how did the hockey journey start as a kid? Were you a fan growing up?
Well, it was my situation was first of all, I grew up in Canada. Everyone plays hockey, and my father made an ice skating rink in our backyard. So the story is, before my second birthday, I saw my older brother out there on skates, and I was screaming bloody murder because I'm going out there and I'm on the ice. And but as long as I can remember, my dad made an ice skating rink. We had a floodlight, and after school, we went out. We played hockey. My mother would call us in for dinner. We'd come in, take our skates off. Our feet were frozen. We'd cry for 10 minutes, have dinner, and go back out again. And my mother would call us in for to go to bed, and we'd take our skates off and cry for another 10 minutes, go to bed, and same and rinse and repeat the next day. So it was always fun. Always played on a team. No thought at all about playing pro. Just great. And my parents encouraged any activity to keep us busy.
Now, from a hockey fan perspective, when people hear the name Ben Wilson, what would you hope that they remember first?
Well, a really smart, good-looking guy.
I
Ah,
agree. I agree. That's the first thing that comes to mind as a Flyers fan. That when I hear your name, that's the first thing I think of too.
exactly. No, I'm gonna say it's the fighting.
Now, speaking of that, the book is called Gloves Off. What got you to sit down and write a book? We were touching on it before we started recording, but what would inspire somebody to reach out and order your book because you chose to write this eclectic book about your your journey through the NHL?
Well, um, when I left hockey, I had, three girls and bills to pay, so I'd left hockey, period, and it really wasn't part of my life. And events happened, and someone said to me, we're out somewhere about something that happened. I was telling them, and one of my daughters turned to me and said, "How come I didn't know that?" And the short answer is because you'd never listened to this stuff when you were younger. And then I started telling one story, then another. And they said, I can't believe I didn't know that. And then they're on the internet searching things. And well, what about this? And then I tell them. And then I started thinking that I don't want to write a book like like Gretzky can write a book about a billion scores, and then he could have a sequel, the next billion goals I scored, and and I don't want to write a book the goal I scored, and then the sequel, the other goal I scored. So I started doing more kind of a behind the scenes stuff because things don't always go the way you plan it. It's not always master planned, like in life. And some of the stories that you do something good and it turns out really bad, and sometimes you do something bad and it turns out great, and people say great play, and I thought I better memorialize these before they're lost to time, and and then the more I started writing and sharing with my daughters, they were shocked. This is their dad doing this stuff, and I think that's augmented when I played. It was a crazy time in the league. I mean, they didn't call penalties. And cross-checking someone in the back of the neck 3 seconds after the whistle, that really wasn't a penalty. Every now and then he got called, but mm, that's that's crazy when you think about it. Today, if you hit one guy like that, he'd stay down the ice for 10 minutes, just be suspended for life. But it was a crazy time. The penalties weren't called. The Broad Street Bullies had been in town, and every other team decided they're gonna meet fire with fire, and there's a nuclear arms race of big tough guys. And I walk into the league, and the guys were big, and they were tough, and they were mean, and penalties weren't called. It was crazy. So there's a lot of fun stories in their book, I think.
Now, what's the one story in the book that you could share that when you recalled it, you can't believe that it actually happened?
Oh, okay. Well, first of all of them is the real truth. I can't believe Gretzky scored 5 goals on us while we were making sure he doesn't score to score 50 goals in 39 games. I mean, there's a lot of things like that, and or you go out on the ice on our power play against Edmonton, and the coach yelled out at us, "Make sure Gretzky doesn't score on our power play." They felt like saying, "Thanks, coach," but probably the dumbest one that I can think of off the top of my head. I think I'm 19. We're playing in oh, no, dumber one. Um, we're playing against Boston in preseason, and Terry O'Reilly, the puck's, I don't know, I'm in my corners, bouncing between my feet, and Terry O'Reilly just runs me over something senseless. And in preseason, I don't even care if I play a preseason game, and he runs me over. So of course we get in a tough fight, and so that's one thing. So then we're later on that season, we're in Philadelphia, and the same play happened, and Terry took a merciless run at me, knocked me flying. So I'm in another fight. And the tough part about Terry is he's a lefty. My fighting was control the guy's punching arm, his right arm. And in a lefty, I couldn't do it. And so it was just a free for all. And so we had a tough, long. Um, any of the punches either way could have put someone out for life. So we get that finished. And by the time we finish the fight, they could just send me back to the dressing room. I'm too tired to play. So I go out, and what does he do again? He runs me right over. It's almost the same play. You think I'd catch on, but I didn't. And we're in this brutal fight. So now we go to the penalty box, exhausted. And after 5 minutes, we come out, and I'm exhausted. And the coach thinks we've just had a rest. So he puts me on the ice right. And I look over, who am I facing off against? Terry O'Reilly. And I sit there, holy shit, I hope he doesn't know how tired I am because he's coming after me. I can't defend myself. And we had a guy in the stands, his name was Sign Man, and they called him Sign Man because he held up signs. And before the whistle is a TV timeout, before the whistle, he holds up the sign. It says, round 3. And I'm looking at this, and you can't believe it. I'm too tired to stand. I'm too tired to play a shift. I'm too tired to fight. I'm defenseless. And I started thinking, if I had more energy, I wouldn't go fight Riley. I'd go over the glass and go beat up Simon for putting up that sign. And then I'm looking at this because Terry saw the sign. I'm thinking, he's probably in my boat too. He's got to be tired. If he had more energy, he'd go over and beat up Sideman. We're done with each other. And then I thought, maybe the best ending of this would be if both of us together went over the glass and beat the hell out of Sign Man. And and I started thinking about this, and then all of a sudden Terry looks over at me, and he's got a grin on his face. And I'm praying that's the grin of this is crazy, this is stupid, holy shit, as opposed to he's got a grin, I'm coming after you again. And we didn't. So we didn't. So we were too tired. We were too tired. so a sign man saved his life, and we saved a lot of jail time. But pretty tough to make up a sign. Must have been tough to carry that, the big
Yeah,
Manila cardboards in and a marker and write up round three. That must have been exhausting for him.
he's
I
still
hope he's
there.
okay.
He's still
He's still
there.
there.
Yeah, going to the games. He's still there.
Oh shit! You know what? I'm going to go get a ticket. I'm coming after him now. I'm still bitter and angry. Okay, that's my. You know what? I have new aspirations in life. I'm coming after Steinman. Good work.
Just sit right next to him. Get a ticket and sit right next to him. That'd be great.
That's
Um,
so funny. Still there.
the question also, Ben, I have is it must thoughts on walking into that epic Flyers locker room for the first time and what did you think of the atmosphere?
Okay, so you come in. You're 19 years old, and I'm playing juniors. And everyone's, adults are Mister, and the kids you're playing with, from 16 to 19, they're your friends, and all of a sudden you walk. These are guys you idolize, right? I see them on TV. You watch all the games, and then I was actually practicing. What do you say to them? Like Bobby Clark comes up to me and he says, "Hi, I'm Bob," and I can say, "Sup, dude," which isn't maybe good. I can say, "Hello, Mr. Clark. I'm thinking of it. Hello, do I call him Bobby? Do I call him Bob? What is this? I don't know what I'm supposed to do." And I walk into the dressing room, and there's Bobby Clark, there's Billy Barber, and Bernie Perrant all around, joking and laughing. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Am I supposed to avert my eyes and pretend they don't exist? Am I supposed to go up and say hi? And all three of them came right over to me. They introduced themselves, and um, they made it so easy. Like, hey, I'm Bob. Hey, welcome. And they're always phenomenal about that. And it took me a while to catch on to that because these are your heroes. Clark had already won the MVP 3 times. They'd won the Stanley Cup 2 times. Only the Lord saves more than Bernie Perrant. I mean, Billy Barber. And I wrote in my book, if you're a fly in the wall in the dressing room, just in the dressing room, and based on way the guys act and talk and whatever in the dressing room, you pick out the superstar. And you couldn't. You couldn't pick out the superstar because in the dressing room, no one acted like it. No one acted. They were all just gee shucks, just guys having fun. There was zero arrogance, and you wouldn't even know who's the top player. Now, once you got on the ice, you can figure that out pretty quickly, right? But in the dressing room, we go for dinner, stuff like that. You would never guess, which is an absolute tribute to all of them because the Jimmy Watson was my defense partner. I don't know how many times he's an all-star. There were Reggie Leach. These are phenomenal. It was phenomenal. So it was intimidating, and they made it so nice. It was unbelievable. I still appreciate that because I could have developed a stutter if they were anything less than that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Ed, question for Ben.
No, Ben, I'm gonna take you back a little bit. I'd like to ask you, when did you know that that when you got to juniors that you had a shot to go to the show, and then also what was your draft day experience like? Because I know that we've talked to a lot of other guys, and they said it's very different than how it is now. And I'd like to hear about like that 16 to 19-year-old kind of.
Well, I was drafted into junior in the second round, and my brothers and I, we were skating 6 hours a day, um, 12 months a year, and trying to catch up to the really good players. And so we got to junior at 16 to make the team. Try to doing a little value added. I decided I'm going to fight, and I'd never been in a fight before. And um, I bet if there were 50 fights in junior in training camp the first year in 3 weeks, I was in 45 of them. And it's sort of on the job training. You better learn to get good or you're going to get your head beaten in. And so I did that. And then during the season and off season, my brother and I, we were skating 6 hours a day and improving our speed, the endurance, and puck handling and all that. And um, by my 18th birthday, I played for Team Ontario against the Eastern League, Western League, and the Russians. And by that time, um, I had a good tournament. I could handle myself with the best guys. And but you never know, you never know. And so my next year we're going into the draft. Um, I went with my brother, and I had dinner with the Philadelphia Flyers the night before. Um, and but they're not saying, "Oh, we're taking you," and you just don't know. And so you're on. I was on pins and needles the night before. I didn't sleep because you know, I wouldn't say your whole career rides on it because it doesn't, but certainly how much you get paid, your chance of playing in the NHL versus the minors, and just what they perceive of you. Because as you know in life, some people think you're great, and some people you think you're considerably less than great. And same person. And I was picked sixth overall, and it was um, exciting, a relief, exciting and relief. It's happened. And then the funniest, saddest thing about this is, so you gear up your whole life for this, right? You're training, going to training camp. I'm skating 6 hours a day. I go to the Flyers training camp, and things are going well. Things are going well. I played the first exhibition game, and I think it was against the New York Rangers, and I got the puck behind our goal line. I did an end-to-end rush, deked the goaltender, and scored. And I had a really good game. And I come in my first exhibition game. After the game, I'm just exhausted because I'm going beyond flat out trying to make the team, and the vets are whatever. But I didn't know that, right? So I came in, I sat in my dressing room and in my locker, and I said, I've done it. Thank God. It's all over. And I sit back and I want to go take like a 20-year nap. And I'm sitting there because it's all over. I've done it. And after about, I don't know, 30 seconds, 5 minutes, all of a sudden I realized, shit, I got to do that every night of my life. And I never thought about that. I used all the gas in the tank just to get there. And you say, holy shit, you got to do that every day of your life. And, at least you're through one threshold, and then you try to learn how to be a pro and be ready and play a good game. So but it was wouldn't take anything back. It was wild. And there you go.
Ben, I'd like to give you a follow-up question on that. Who was the guy in the locker room that kind of really taught you how to be a pro?
Oh, as opposed to do what I say, not what I do. I was blessed with the guys in the dressing room of how to be a humble and a pro. None of the guys I said bragged, but um, but guys came to practice, and they practiced hard. The guys worked out in the gym. Guys did what they had to do. This wasn't a joke. So my first defense partner was Jimmy Watson, who was an incredible person, incredible player, and we roomed together, and it was great. Wherever we went for dinner, um, when we're traveling before the game, come on along and all that. But it's just the way he conducted himself. But a lot of the guys did too, And so I was blessed. They showed you how to do it. They had won the Stanley Cup, and they're still playing like crazy. And you see the guys in practice working hard. They're not floating because it's all good or whatever. And so I would say my biggest influences were guys like Mel Bridgman, Jimmy Watson, obviously Bobby Clark, Billy Barber, And Billy Barber had, he's I wouldn't say gee shucks or whatever, but he seems that everything's so easy going or whatever. But then when you watch him in practice, he's practicing and hard, riding the exercise bike, he rides hard. And and before a game, these guys aren't joking around, they're serious. So I had a lot of good guys like that. I think I was fortunate. I don't know what it's like with every other team, but but I can tell you that I was blessed with those guys. They were consummate pros.
I have a Flyers fan question where I want to know, was the locker room game plan always to be intimidating as a Flyer, or was that something that was just a natural thing for that team?
Um, I think it's two things. Number one is in any sport, you pressure the opposition, right? You don't let them do, tennis is a great example. You don't put a softball into them in their forehand in the middle of the court, so they got a great big swing to pound it down your throat. You want these guys, the tennis guy, you want them stretched out, diving, can barely get his racket, can't get anything on it. You want pressure. So one of the things that's no defenseman's like, they dump in your corner and the guy's right on you and actually hits you just before you touch the puck. And you say, you're not going to do a lot under those circumstances. And if with that sort of pressure, what can the defenseman do? He's getting hit as he's touching the puck. He can hit it up the boards. He can hit it behind the net. Their team doesn't have to worry about you passing up the middle. So they're playing the boards and behind the net. And then you also take a look at the individual players. If the team has, um, a bunch of skaters, they might do it differently. But we had a bunch of tough guys. And one of the toughest guys ever to play the game is Paul Holmgren. And, what a shock. It's a good idea. Get the puck in his corner and let him mow over / wipe out the other team. It's pretty good play. And it's almost always going to go in Paul's favor. So, um, when you have those types of players, just trying to keep as much pressure on the other team as you can. And when we played against Montreal back then, they had a smaller but fast team. They were just trying to get in there as we push in, going deep to forecheck. They were just trying to get the puck out of their end and maybe catch us in deep. So they're trying to counterattack us. But certainly, we put a lot of pressure on teams.
And that role that you had on that team, what was it like having that role in playing in front of a Philadelphia Flyers crowd compared to other cities? Like in Philly, you're the hero playing that style, but what was it like also playing in other cities as the villain?
um, every team, I think, in every sport has a better record at home. And there's no question. I wrote this about in my book. The At home, the fans are a tailwind at your back, and it helps. It just helps. You say that's not going to help me, but it helps. And then it's certainly a headwind, and certainly in playoffs. And um, you just got to stand. I'm sure I got in more fights on the road because the other teams were playing harder and tougher, and you got to stand up to them. And I don't know, can't exactly explain it how guys play tougher at home and play better at home, but every team, every sport does it, so it's real. And so it was tough, and that's what makes playoffs so tough. You can do great at home, but you've got to do something on the road. So it made for a lot of crazy times.
Ed, question for Ben.
I guess I'm going to ask you, what was your, as your career progressed, and obviously exercise science, progressed as your career progressed. Like, what was your training regimen like when you first started, and then as you progressed through your career, what did you do to get yourself ready for the season and also in season?
Okay. Exercise science is while it exists today is an overstatement for back then. Back then, My take was, and level of the fittest. And every now and then, a coach would get mad. You lose a couple games, and everyone's got to ride the exercise bike. And my take was, you're not going to make anyone get in better shape if they don't want to be. So, going into the pros, I skated 6 hours a day, and to get better and improve my skating, which it absolutely did. But you go into training camp and you're already worn out from all that skating. Um, so after that, um, I felt my mobility, my speed, and puck handling just didn't need the hour and hour of extra training. But the key to me um, was the leg strength for skating. And I transitioned in riding the exercise bike uh, after practice every day into the ground until I literally couldn't walk. And if I rode the exercise bike, my legs were good. I was good. I did weight training and stuff like that. Um, I wouldn't say extremely heavy because you're always playing the next day, and be fatigued, right? And you don't want to certainly do heavy weightlifting on your legs and be fatigued the next day. That's not helping you. But the exercise bike is as brutal as tiring as it was. Um, um, it kept my legs strong, and I was fortunate when I played in Chicago. Keith Brown was my defense partner, the most biggest maniac workout guy I've ever seen in my life. And he used to ride the exercise bike at a level I didn't even know existed. And you know, too much work never hurt anyone. It's terrifying to do. And I used to ride it with him and actually barely be able to walk when I got off each day. And then you get on the next day. And needless to say, I don't want to ever ride the exercise bike again. I don't want to turn over a wheel. I don't like anything about it. But at the time, it was important, and I think everybody is a little different for their body type and maybe their position or whatever. What works for them, and but I was clear. I do weights to keep my whole body strong, but not interfere with the game. Just ride the bike into the ground every day, and not game day, so it's 4 days a week.
And did you ever go into a game knowing that you had to fight somebody?
Um, Not so much I'm going to fight this guy, other than, I mean, something happened and we weren't going to take that shit, or it's time for him to take some of our shit. And, um, and of course they don't like it, then you're in a fight. But, um, for example, we're playing in Washington one year, sure, first shift of the game, they fired the puck down the ice. And back then you had to go and touch it. And Paul Mulvey skated behind me as hard as he could the whole length of the ice. And before I got to the boards, I put the brakes on, holding him off so I could touch the puck. And he just kept running through me and just rattled me into the boards. And I jumped off the boards. I cross-checked him back of the neck. Refs get in and whatever. And so, you know, those are career-ending things when guys run the whole length of the ice at you. And so the next game, there's no question that two can play this game. And missed his eyes by about 6 inches, just skating by casually. I wasn't swinging, wasn't doing anything, but nobody mistakes a stick 6 inches from your eyes. And I did it a few times, and he should have gone after me after I did that. And after I knew that, he didn't want any part of me. But there's guys, they pull shit or they try to hurt your goaltender, try to hurt someone. And I wouldn't say a fight, but you're going to be as obsessively brutal to them as you possibly could, and they can back down or fight you. There was no choice. It wasn't like, ooh, well, got it, we're even. None of that.
That brings me to like my next question. It's a good segue. What's the biggest misconception with hockey fans today about the enforcers back then? There's a big misconception about the need in then compared to now.
Yeah. First of all, hockey, unlike other sports, has a stick and it's a weapon. And I played 1 year, I think I was like 15, and they took out any fighting. And guys just use their stick more because you know, no one's gonna punch them back. And the way they called the penalties or didn't cause the penalties, there's just a lot of intimidation. There was a lot of intimidation. And when I first broke in the league, there were some good players that just couldn't take the beating, and they were out of the league. Um, and they just couldn't take the beating, and I don't blame them, but um, a lot of the Europeans came over and just weren't geared up for it, and it affected their game too much. But intimidation is to ruin the other team's game, right? If you got a guy getting a rebound and he feels good, and then if he's intimidated a little and he's like 5 and 10 feet farther back, he doesn't get the rebound, and then you won. You won that battle at least. So, um, and then halfway through my career, it switched a lot, and the tough guys are now getting called for more and more penalties, which hurt their team, and the fast guys, and not tough guys, they had a lot more room to maneuver and didn't have to worry about it. So some guys got a career and lost a career, and then it switched. Now it wasn't the same guys. If you lost your career, in '78 when I turned pro, and because you couldn't take the beating, you didn't get the career in '85. It was some other guy just like you or whatever. So it was, but that's just the way it is. And, for the guys that play a long time, they got to be able to play all the games,
What
all
now
the types of games.
was there an unwritten code amongst the tough guys back then?
Like,
You guys are on the same page, even though like you were telling the story about O'Reilly before we started recording that, it's there is a respect to what you guys do that the fans wouldn't really understand.
um, I think, I always looked at it, this is all about intimidation. And there's lots of types of intimidation. Paul Holmgren wasn't the greatest fighter, good fighter, not the greatest fighter, but he was intimidating because he ran over everybody, including goaltenders, and they all knew it. Um, I do believe in tough guys. There's tough guys like Bobby Clark, Billy Barber, Reggie Leach, Brian Trottier, Mike Bossy. They're tough because you couldn't intimidate them. You could take penalties against them, but you couldn't intimidate them. And then the fighting is just a little bit more. So, and of the fighters, I think there's two types of fighters. One, guys like Terry O'Reilly, Willie Paulette, my all-time biggest pain in the ass for me. They played the whole game. They're out there all the time. You better watch it at all points in time, and they're causing damage by like Paul Krongren the whole points in time. And they fight. And then there's the guys that come on, for fewer shifts, maybe at the end of the game and fight. And that's a different type. And so there's all different types, and everybody, it's sort of like, trying to contribute a little bit anyway, because that's how you stay on the team. And but there's, and then the question is, if you do something really stupid, is it Does it help your team? Does it hurt your team? And sometimes it helps and sometimes it hurts. And, and then the beginning of my career, if you did something stupid, it was revered. If you do it at the end, they're mad at you. And so, it's just, it goes on. And I'll tell you an unwritten rule that I really liked. The unwritten rule that I liked is that a skater, a fast guy, can wear a shield, but a tough guy can't. And if I say my eyeballs are just as soft as the other guys, but how can you possibly do that? But the the other unwritten rule was like if someone took a run at Bobby Clark, I can go take any amount of penalties to get him. If someone ran over Bernie Perrant, any number of penalties to go to. If someone cross checks me in the back of the head and knocks me flying, I got to be tough enough to take it. So I can defend everyone on the team, and I can take as many penalty minutes as I want for anyone on the team other than me. I just have to there take the shit. And boy, the team gets mad at you. And now my rules are a little different. I couldn't give a damn what the team says. You try to hurt me, I'm trying to hurt you, period. And there's no amount of penalty minutes that I can't take from on the guy that tried to hurt me. But boy, the team was mad. It makes no sense.
I got to ask you, was there ever a fight that you had that right after it happened, you said, man, I shouldn't have done that, or you regretted it like right away?
You know, you get the puck, you make this quick pass. Oh, I wish I'd done this. The puck was bouncing. I try to make a pass. I should have fired it. There's a lot of should haves. There's a lot of should haves. We were playing against um, Pittsburgh in Philadelphia, and Kenny Linsman after the whistle was causing some shit. Now, Kenny's a good friend of mine. Kenny pulls a lot of shit. I think it's hysterical.
I
And
remember.
he annoyed the shit out of everyone. I thought it's hysterical. So he's pulling his shit. And I'm holding on to some guy on the side just watching. There's nothing's going on. Next thing I'm on the ground. Paul Baxter sucker punch. And my tooth was sore for 20 years. So I got in a fight with him, winning the fight. So he just goes and covers up, which is annoying as shit. And I don't blame him. He's just doing the best he can. And all of a sudden in Pittsburgh, I don't know how long later, but not that long, the puck's way in their end. I'm skating down the ice. He's skating down the ice with his back to me. So I take about a 10-foot charge, and cross check him in the back of the neck. He goes down, just lays on the ice. I get a 5-minute penalty. And if we were up 4-2, on my 5-minute penalty, they score 3 goals. And we lose. And to say that the coach was mad at me was an understatement. It's an understatement because I can't defend myself. And, cause a lot of shit out on the ice. And it can't be, but don't hit anyone on the Flyers. Just hit Behn because he can't defend himself. That rule made no sense to me. And it didn't matter how mad they got, didn't matter what they did. The coaches did. My rules were you try to hurt me, I try to hurt you. That's simple. And worse and worse. And I want not only you to know it, I want your team to know it. I want the whole team, the league to know I will do that.
Ed, question for Ben.
Sure. Hey Ben, what was your favorite building to play in?
Well, you got to start off with your home ice, right? When you got all the fans, that's always the best. But once you go on the road, the best ice was Minnesota. I thought because they didn't take the ice in and out for basketball games, so they did great, and so I like that. But the games I end up liking, it's not the arenas, it's just the competition. When I was in Philly, we went into a Boston, those square little corners, and that you're fighting for all you're worth. There's that. Um, um, I just I just drew a blank on my next one. We had a huge rivalry with the Rangers and the Islanders, so it's more of the rivalry than the rink. Another a crazy building, and to go play when I first go into the old Chicago Stadium, and to that extent, all the old buildings that were smaller and were crazy. I remember my second game of the year. We're coming off after a whistle, after a period to go in the dressing room. So I'm walking the dressing room, and these fans throw a beer on you and other shit or whatever, walking off. And they shouldn't be allowed to do that. God, that's not what you buy a ticket. You can throw a beer on someone, right? And so I lift my arm up just to cover my face. The guy grabbed my stick out of my hand and whacked me with my own stick.
Uh,
This is there. So, um, but so there was a lot of crazy stuff. But if I had to pick, um, just all the old arenas, Montreal, um, was great. One of the arenas I didn't like was Toronto. The corners were so rounded. You dump the puck in one side and it just keeps zipping around to the other side. And I always felt like you go in the corner chasing the puck, and never get it. So I didn't like that. And then of course I'm from Toronto, so all my family was there to watch me not quite get the puck. And I didn't like that. But yeah, Boston. And we had big rivalry with the Rangers and the Islanders.
So I got to ask you, we've asked this to a bunch of the Flyer guys that we've had on. Well, give me one legendary Flyers road story that makes you laugh when you think about it.
Mm. Yeah, I might be giving away my whole book. So hang on. Just
We don't want to do that, Ben. We don't want to do that. We want
yeah,
people
no, no, and then just trying to
to.
so no, I just think of not so much off the road. I remember right at the beginning of my first season, I'm 19, and um, it's funny. So I fought all my way through junior, right? And Indiana is a pretty good player. So I go to training camp, and I didn't care how many times I'd fight in training camp to the pros. If I did all that fighting in junior, I'm sure as hell fighting in pro. Now these are men. I don't know if I can win a fight, and but I'm going to fight. I'm going to do anything to be on the team. And but training camp is going so well. I'm in no fights. No fights. I'm shocked, and just just hasn't come up. And we're playing. We go through all of 10 preseason games, no fights. And then I think one of the first few games of the year, we're going to Boston. And Paul Holmgren pulled me aside and said, "We had a tough time with Boston last year. We're going to reassert ourselves." And he said to me, "Can you fight?" And I said, "Holy shit, this is the first time anyone's thought of me as just a player. This is pretty cool." And I remember saying to Paul, I said, "Paul, I don't know if I can win. I haven't fought any of these guys at all." And he says, "Because if you don't fight, when five guys there, you at least got to hold on to one guy. You can't let two guys jump up and beat up one guy. So it used to happen. You got to hold at least one guy." And I said, "Paul, I'll fight." And of course, 5 minutes into the game, 10 minutes into the game, John Winsink ran me through the glass. I'm in a fight with him, and um, half the team was kicked out with 10 minutes into the game. And my days of being a non-fighter evaporated. But that, Paul asking me that, I thought that was pretty cool for a little minute.
Was there a player on one of your teams that you absolutely did not want to make mad during practice?
Oh, okay. Well, there's two come to mind. Um, Mel Bridgman is in the dressing room, and he's flexing his muscles the entire time, and he's got incredible build up, no big lumpy muscles, and he keeps flexing. I'm thinking to myself, what an asshole. What is he trying to do? Scare us? Why is he flexing? He's like this the whole time. And it's just, what's going on? And what's going on? And Mel's a tough guy. And I'm scared as shit about him. And I'm sort of like averting my eyes. I don't want to look over there in case he thinks I'm eyeballing him. And he looks tough as shit. He's strong. And it had to be 2 months into the season. I realized that's just his build. He's not flexing. He's just got the incredible build. It looks like he's flexing. So I survived that one. Mel was in my wedding party, became a great friend, and he's a great guy. But at the time, I was terrified. But in practice, when you're coming off an injury and you're not in quite a good a shape, your timing's lousy, you're desperate to play, everything aggravates you when you play. It's just nothing is going right. And it makes you mad. And so Paul Holmgren is coming off an injury. And I know what it's going to be like. And I said to Paul, listen, do your stuff. I have no interest in fighting Paul. Why are we going to beat each other up on our same team? And so I said, so just take it easy. Don't piss me off, but I'm going to stay away from you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And as soon as the scrimmage starts, Paul's going like a maniac, like he can't control himself. Now he goes in my corner. I don't even go in my corner. I'm 30 feet back. He can go get the puck. He could have scored 30 goals. I'm not going to get near him because we don't need that conflict. And then a little later on, that's what I did for Paul. Later on, I said, Paul, I'm coming off an injury. You know how aggravating it is, okay? I don't mean to be an asshole. I'm just trying my hard to get it going or whatever. Just please stay away from me. We don't need to be doing this. So, drop the puck. He runs me in the fucking corner, and I almost fucking lost it. And I don't know what happened, how we did fight, but that was Paul. Paul was one of the great all-time teammates on and off the ice. He really was, and you know what you got from Paul. He played hard, and even when I needed him to hold back on the reins a little bit, he struggled doing that.
I got to ask you the yin to the yang. Who was the funniest guy that you ever played with?
First of all, I liked all the guys I ever play with. They're just good guys. I love Billy Barber. It's funny. Billy was always happy, always made us laugh, and and I like that. No matter what, you're tired from a road trip or whatever, he's still happy and that in the dressing room, and always something going on. So I don't know if there's anyone in this universe that can't like Billy. And to that extent, I loved Jimmy Watson, because Jimmy he was always positive too. He was always positive, always laughing. And if someone pulls a joke on him, he laughs. Pulls a joke on someone else, he laughs. He was just great. But in terms of, can't place anyone right now. He was just funny. Let's just go tell a joke. But in terms of the feeling you got from people, certainly Billy sticks out in my mind. Oh, Bernie Perrant. Bernie Perrant was the greatest. He's the greatest. And Bernie, when I came, Bernie was the greatest goaltender ever. And he's just laughing and joking. And hey, hey, Ben, I'm glad if you let me carry your sticks, Ben. And he's just laughing and joking, and everything was positive with Bernie. Everything was positive. Everything was happy, and he made everyone else happy around him. He was an amazing guy, like amazing. And of all the years I know him, he did that every time.
Not to get off the subject, but everybody that we've had on, and I grew up loving Bernie Perrant. My dad was a huge Bernie Perrant fan, and we just missed having him on before he passed. And everybody's got nothing but unbelievable Bernie Perrant stories that we've had on. Joe Watson, Bill Clement, and Andre Lacroix. They've all had awesome Bernie Perrant story. So he definitely is missed in the Flyers lore.
Oh, you know what? When I came in the league, you got to think these guys have all won the Cup, right? I haven't played a game, and you go for dinner with Bernie Perrant and Moose DuPont and Jimmy Watson, and they make you feel like not only do you belong, that you might even be the star. Now, on speaking of that, if I can just digress a little, the absolute worst of making you feel like a star was Mark Howe. Now, in my opinion, Mark Howe could have been the best defenseman in the league. He could skate like I didn't until I played with him. I didn't think anyone could skate that fast and not get tired. He was an amazing player. But you talk to Mark, but no matter how the conversation starts, it ends up with you being the star. And then you go back home and you say, messed up. And the next day, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick with him being the superstar. I'm going to stick with him being, and you finish the day. Nope, I'm the superstar. He did it every day. I know him. And then he said, we're going in Hartford. He says, my dad's got a restaurant. Do you want to go have dinner with my dad? And his dad's name was Gordy. You might have heard of him. So we're at dinner, Mark, Gordy, and I got 2-on-1. By the time Gordy's finished with you, you're the superstar. By the time Mark's finished with you, you're the superstar. So I'm around two superstars. And we had to conclude at the end of the dinner, I must have been the superstar. And you feel like saying, I'm in a time warp. There's something going on here. Guys, are you that stupid? What's the matter with you? How can you do this? But you can't stop them. They played the game. They were fabulous. If you asked them, they knew about everything. And they also knew that you're the superstar. And I think they did it to everybody. And it's like a force of nature. You can't stop them.
Ed, do you have a question for Ben?
I do. Hey Ben, who was the guy that you were when you know that you either played with or played against, and you just would watch him with a puck and be like, that's just truly amazing what he just did.
Mark. Mark was, I thought he's the best defenseman in the league. He made it look easy. He never bragged about himself. Um, and the other thing is, if you're up 2-1, 3-2, or something like that, he didn't move up the ice trying to collect his next assist or goal. He stayed back. He played it smart. He didn't do anything other than the best thing for the team. And, and he had the mind for the game. He had the physical skills. He could pass like nothing I've ever seen. Never, I didn't even know it existed. That's how powerful and fast he was.
Now,
And
I
the way
got a
the game,
couple. Oh,
okay, go ahead.
go ahead. Sorry, Ben. I
No,
got
I
a
just finishing up. The way with the less hitting in the game, I think Mark could be playing today. He's I can't imagine him ever. He's probably down to only average speed today, and he's 70 some years old. He was that amazing.
Yeah, and he took
But
a
go ahead.
while to get in the Hall of Fame too. Well deserved.
Yeah, I yeah. Again, he was so underrated. Everyone knew he was a superstar, but he can say an underrated superstar. He was amazing.
I want to ask you about a couple of questions about the book because we want to talk about you know, where people can get it at the end of the episode. But was it when you were writing the book Gloves Off? Was there a particular chapter that was tough for you to write, like emotionally tough?
Um, I think part of the reason, um, I didn't talk about hockey is when you bring it back, it all happens not like yesterday, like 5 minutes ago, and there's some brutal and tough um, things about it. Um, but a lot of my book is I call them shout outs, different chapters, just recognizing players that sometimes get lost. Certainly Mark Howe, because over time, about Gretzky and Lemieux. And so I did a lot of shout outs. And the other thing that I want to do is it's easy, um, to I don't know what the word is, be a little bit bitter, you're on your soapbox, you get to say bad things about people, and you get your swing. And I thought very early on, I don't want to do that. And everyone in life's been wronged at some point in time. Some coach doesn't think you're any good. Sometimes you make the right pass, and they yell at you for making the right pass and all that. And I didn't want to go down that. I want to keep the book as positive as I could. And probably um, what happened is I did this interview for Scoop Melanowski, and he said, what's your highlights and whatever. So it's 5 minute, 10-minute interview. And he sent me Randy Holt, weighed in. Instead of saying, hey, Ben hasn't done an interview in 40 years, congrats. He says, I know I'm commenting on, basically should have written, I'm commenting on Ben's interview, but let me tell the story about me. So Randy told this story about, I guess, I don't know, he's in LA or something like that. And Bobby Clark held both his arms behind his back. And Clark told me to punch him, sucker punch him. And Randy Holt threatened me if I did that he's coming after me. So I didn't dare. And I even wrote in my book that, but one of the few negative things.
May I lost.
Mm-hmm.
You there?
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
there.
we lost you for a
No,
second.
and I say, so maybe Randy Holt, but that's for other people. But it offends me, and I will say it offends me that he thinks Bobby Clark held his arms behind his back and told me to sucker punch someone. That offends me because Bobby Clark was tough as heck. He gave out a lot of shit. He took a lot of shit. He was in the mug. He was one of these guys that just is above it all. He's in front of the net. He gave it and he took it. And I have all the respect. And for Randy Holt to say Clark's now holding guys' arms, say sucker punch him, that annoyed the shit out of me. And I don't care if he thinks if he's talked the world and then he's, I'm afraid of him. I don't care about that. That's just silly. But and then probably the only other one was, and I wrote all through my book, I believe if you get in a fight, you win. Just dropping your gloves, you're a winner. I believe that, and I believe that, and I believe that. And um, um, so in my book, I didn't say one thing about winning or losing the fights. But one of the things that Clark Gillies did and I think he's done a few of them, an interview about my two fights with them. And, the one fight, and he says, well, I slipped. And, the next fight, he wailed on me and things like that. And, I want to say, I spent my whole book and I didn't say you won one fight because if you drop your gloves, you both win. And, but I did say, and I contradicted him, I said, everyone can figure out what happened in the first fight, but I think I did pretty well. And the second fight, those wailing on me, he didn't even have a grip on me, and they didn't even hurt or whatever. I hit you one punch, you fall down. And I didn't hit you hard enough to like knock you flying down, but went and lost your balance again. And he's telling the story and annoyed the shit out of me because he was a phenomenal player. He was tough as shit. He was big. He was strong. I have all the respect in the world for him. And didn't think he had to tell the story like that. And so those are two things. And and thank God I don't read other things in the news and stuff like that, or I might have more guys to be annoyed with that speak up with. But my big thing is you drop the gloves, you did pretty good. And some guys, they're dropping their gloves and they can't think it's going to go well. And so it's pretty goddamn tough for them to drop their gloves.
Were there any stories that were too wild that you had to leave out of the book?
Yep. There's like I left out some of the negative, a few negative things that you could sound, and but the other one is that um, you know, guys are trying to crush you in the head and take your brains out and put their fist through your skull. It was violent, and to understand how really violent it was, and for me to explain it, I didn't want everyone to think and hate me and think I'm completely nuts. So the real violent stuff, and what I was thinking. But I would say in a nice, and I think this is a nice way, if someone tries to hurt me, I'm trying to hurt them. And if someone catches, guys didn't go in the corner sometimes, to get the puck. They stayed out and let someone go out.
Goes in high, and he's going to take a penalty, and there they go. Fletch and Behn Wilson.
Well, Behn Wilson moved right over there to get it. Now Wilson's getting some good right hands. Fletch hasn't been able to. He's throwing one punch. He's got Behn Wilson's sweater up, and is just pulling him down on the ice. Now they got it. Oh, Behn Wilson landed a right hand to Willie Fletch that knocked him off balance, but he seemed to have recovered pretty good to get back on top of Wilson. Wilson moved right from his right point position all the way over to the left wing corner to take a check on Willie Fletch.
Back here, Wilson and Fletch. It looked like Fletch started that one.
Well, Fletch just skated by and grabbed Behn Wilson from behind, and now Wilson's really getting some good right hands in. Wilson uppercuts on Willie Fletch. Fletch had just jumped on Wilson from behind as the players coming up. Now Fletch has got Wilson and just picked him up and threw him to the ice. You got a lot of beef out there going at each other. But it was an innocent play. The Flyers were breaking out. Fletch was forechecking, came up behind Wilson, grabbed him, and started punching. By O'Callahan now, McClellan puts around O'Callahan, and everybody's scrambling away. O'Callahan was trying to get the original penalty as he really got the elbow and stick up on Hunter, and then McClellan came charging and really wrapped O'Callahan. Then Behn Wilson came into it, and now he's grappling with McClellan. One linesman in there, and he's going to let him go, it looks like. Here they go, McClellan to left hand. Another lefty knocks Wilson's helmet off. Now Wilson got the right hand loose. Oh, they're just slugging it out. Behn Wilson and Kevin McClellan toe to toe. Wilson's right hand is free, McClellan's left. Now they're beginning to tire a bit. They've each landed 4 or 5 good shots. Now they get in a couple of more. And here the linesman in there now. Well, started with O'Callahan.
That again. Works on Behn Wilson. They're in a grappling close. There they go. Howard and Behn Wilson.
Well, Behn Wilson's really getting some good right hands in on Howard. Howard's been able to throw a punch. He's a feisty little player, and Behn Wilson and Howard were going at each other the first game in here. Now Howard's gotten his right arm through and throwing overhand rights that haven't really hitting you. Well, he's got a couple of good lefts up. Wilson has been throwing in most of the punches. Now another overhand left. Hitting Wilson on the back of the head. They both were going down to the ice with the linesman jumping in, but Wilson was decked by Gary Howard in the corner. And then Wilson decked him behind the net, and they both went at it. And we'll see what the penalties are when we come back to this message.
Now Clark won't let Lonsbury make the play. Still tying him up. Lonsbury as Schultz is being pushed behind the net by DuPont. They fight for it, and now there goes Schultz and DuPont pushing away. And there's Behn Wilson with Schultz.
Then Wilson or Schultz. Wilson could be the third man in because of Wilson, DuPont and Wilson. DuPont and Schultz are going at it now. Schultz can't get any good right hands here. They both got their holds on him. Wilson is trying to get a hold of it. Schultz has a hold of Wilson's arm. This could be a classic confrontation as both of them are pretty good fighters. Now Wilson is trying to get the upper hand, uppercuts. Punches are glancing blows because both players have a hold of each other's right arm or right around the bicep area, and their punches are throwing fairly short. But what the Flyers have to be wary of is that Bruce Hood calls Behn Wilson as third man in the confrontation.
Speared Peters in the leg, and that's when Peters took a shot at him. And now Fraser's really letting the right hands on Wilson, and now Wilson's trying to get back, and he has a little bit, but Fraser really got some good right hands in at the start of the fight. Behn Wilson came back with some right hands, but they both stood there throwing punches at each other. It almost seems like I'll hit you, you hit me. And now Wilson really got a good right hand right on Frazier has been able to get his right hand free, but they're still going at it. Wilson's now starting to get the uppercuts through on Frazier as he's hanging on, but Frazier had the good start, had off control of the
Pass blocked nicely by Ben Wilson. Rolls it up on the far side, and Morris, and now we've got Gillies and Ben Wilson. There's a pair.
Well, Gillies and Wilson. Oh, wow, Wilson has really laid it on Gillies. Gillies grabbed him, hit him on hard the check now. Wilson's really giving it to Gillies right here. Both of them are heavyweights. But it looked like Clark Gillies got a couple of good shots in the beginning, and then Wilson got squared away and really laid a few on him.
Bobby, these are two of the biggest guys in the league and two of the guys that are really know that can really go when it comes down to getting into a squabble.
Really getting the uppercuts on Henderson. Henderson can't get any fighting room. Henderson is the one that wanted to go as he both took a shot. Now Henderson's turned his punch at it. But holy cow, it was started right there. They both dropped their gloves and started at it. And Wilson got the best punches in, and he's still getting the good punches in as Henderson has only thrown about 3. Henderson 6'6", 215 pounds. Wilson's pretty good size himself. He's around 6'3".
And Ben Wilson, the gloves are off. Wilson with several right hands. Nyland hasn't landed one yet. Now he does. Now Wilson's still pounding away. And Chris Nyland can't get his hand loose to do any damage. And Ben Wilson, meanwhile, is landing right hands at will. Now they still wrestle around. Nyland got in one right there. And here come the linesmen. But you could just see, Dale, that Ben Wilson got slashed across the arms by Carbonneau. There was no whistle. And then when the whistle blew on the puck into the crowd, Wilson and the Canadian.
What would be the one takeaway that you would want from somebody that read the book?
Well, I think the interesting thing for me, at least, this is my perspective, right? You know, when I talked about you can protect everyone else on your team, but not me. That's just my perspective, and right or wrong, it's my perspective, and you don't get that from everybody else. You know, and a lot of this is for me is a little bit of the fly on the wall, just recognizing and shout outs, so people realize how great things are. And then the last, how great some players are. But the other thing is a lot of things happen throughout the course of your career, through a season, even through a game. And all of a sudden, you're in a spot, you know. I like, and it's nice to play golf if every shot's a tee shot, you know, but sometimes you're in thick grass, sometimes you're buried in the sand, and, you know, you still got to make the best of it. And, you know, I talked a little bit about, you know, you're so sick you can't play, but you never say no. And the one thing you're not going to do is get in a fight because you're too tired and too weak, and the next thing you're in a fight. And I don't know if anybody you know, really thinks about that, because not every day is your prime time. And, you know, and so I think there's a lot of circumstances that come up that are not optimal. You're not every shot's a tee shot, and you make the do with it. And sometimes it turns out good, and sometimes, you know, there's a long story, but there's a time then this guy was choking me on the bottom of a pile, and not to ruin my book, but I finally, you know, dying for breath because he's actually choking me, and that's how you die. And I finally was able to wiggle an arm and 2 arms and get his hand, and I bit his finger, and I bit it so hard that if I didn't have my mouth guard on, I think the finger would have been bit in half. But he's choking me. He's, you know, and it was bad. And all of a sudden, the referee yelled, "That's my finger." So, you know, didn't go quite as well as I had hoped. Glad I didn't get suspended for 10,000 years for that one. And so there's just a lot of things. I think in the book, because it's more of a behind the scenes stuff, and it's not things weren't set up. It's between a rock and a hard place, and And then of course the shutouts to some of the guys I loved and admired. Um, and sometimes you can forget about them, but they were truly great.
And as we slowly start to wrap up the episode, do you have another question for Ben?
Yeah, this is going to be a last question for me, Ben. It's a two-part question. So I'm going to ask you, do you still watch the game at all nowadays? And then the second part, when we talked to Bill Clement, he said that he feels, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, he feels like that the game is pretty antiseptic now and it's very sanitized. Do you feel that same way as well?
Um, the first of all, I've started. I didn't watch anything for 35 years, and because of the book a lot, I started been watching the playoffs, and the game is it's closer checking now. In playoffs, there's hits. Um, I would say that um, in basketball, there used to be the big power centers, and there used to be the fast outside guys. But the game has gone to everybody can shoot the three, everybody can run. There's a few tall guys, but the Shaq's day is come and gone, and in hockey, um, the disparity in the skills of the players is very, very limited. And I know when I um, broke in the league, um, I was as fast as the forwards, so they'd have a tough time going around me with just speed. And so that's a little different. And then I played in Chicago with Keith Brown, and he was 1 yard faster than me, and I raced him almost every day for 5 years. And he was big, strong, and fast as hell. And you can't go around him. You don't. No one has the speed to go around him. And so now you got defensemen that are as fast as the forwards. The forwards have gotten a little bit bigger, a little bit, and they're the same. So it's I'm not saying that this isn't a natural evolution. The big slow defenseman days, are gone, um, and the disparity. But I think the other big thing, just in the whole game, is the disparity between the fastest guy on the team and the slowest guy on the team. Is it really isn't that much anymore. And so you used to be able to catch a big slow guy flat-footed, and deke him go because he has to turn early or go around him or whatever, and that's different. So and they don't have to finish checks. The key now is you keep sweeping. If you finish a check, it takes energy, and for some reason it's better to keep sweeping and circling back, and that's different. But they don't do that so much in playoffs. In playoffs, they take the body and make them pay the price. Probably one of the things I noticed is that you go back in your corner. When I play, there's a guy on you, and he's going to run you through the glass every time. So there's very little what you're going to be able to do with the puck. You're trying to get it first and fire it up the boards, and the defense and the forwards want it up as hard as you can and high as you can. And they were going to try to run into their defensemen, and hopefully the puck kicks outside the blue line. And now guys can make plays on it because they know they're not going to get hit. And I don't believe you try to make a play as a defenseman if you were going to get hit and lose the puck. So it's different. And I have an urge to say, the game I played with was better. But I'm really saying that because that's the game I know. And this is just the next evolution. And I think every sport deals with that. Tennis, they, for a while there, the serves are getting so hard that no one can return them. And, and then, so it's just an evolution. And I think you got to appreciate them. Very tough to compare one era to the next because there's just different things going on.
And is there a moment that you look back on when you reminisce about the NHL career, that one moment that still gives you chills thinking about it?
Well, I actually put in my book, I think the highlight for me was like, it used to be if two guys got a penalty, you played 4-on-4, not canceling 4-on-4. So it used to be, unless someone get a penalty, it's 4-on-3. And I used to be able to go out there. I was honored and blessed to go out there with Clark, Reggie Leach, and Billy Barber. And that's an absolute thing because you didn't have to worry about the violence. You didn't have to get worried about being run through the glass. And, um, and, Billy and Reggie could carry the puck, but they knew if they were carrying the puck, they wouldn't be open to shoot. So, they got the puck, they passed it to Clark or I, we carried the puck, and our job was to get them open for a shot. And they didn't want a nice try if they were open. They wanted the puck flat on their stick in shooting position. And if the guy was putting his stick in your face, I don't know how much they cared. They still wanted the puck at the right time, flat, not bouncing, at the right place to shoot. And you worked hard at that. On the flip side is, if you give them that, they're going to score. So it was it was a great 1-2 punch type of thing, and which is a highlight for me. That was a highly skilled time. We scored a lot of goals, usually very quickly, and the three of them, they knew the game inside out. They were so clever, and you use all your brain power and ability just trying to remotely keep up with them. They were that good.
So Ben, we always try to stay consistent with these interviews where we end with this question. If you had to describe your career in one word, what would it be?
You broke up a little. If I had to describe my career, what would it be?
In one word, what would it be?
Oh, shit. Oh shit wasn't the answer.
That's 2 words.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe just shit. God, you know what? I gotta. I don't know. It was looking back. It was surreal, and it was really a privilege to play. Yeah, I'd say privilege. It was a privilege to play with the guys. It was a privilege to play the game. I always loved the game. Didn't like being hurt. Didn't like a lot of things, but I loved playing on the ice. Didn't like the coaches yelling at you. But I love the guys, and I love playing the game. So it was an absolute privilege. I wouldn't have missed it for anything.
Okay. Now, for fans that want to get a hold of you to get a copy of the book, could you explain to them how to get a hold of you for a book, or where they can find the book?
The book is, I believe it's in Barnes and Nobles, and the easiest, I think, is Amazon, the Kindle books. It's out in paperback, hardcover, and I believe it just got released as an audio book. And it's Behn Wilson, mostly true stories of my life in hockey. And if I could say why it's mostly, is everyone gets to remember their history, their way, or whatever. And the book's intended for people to have a walk down memory lane and have a few laughs and have a little bit of fun along the way. So Behn Wilson, mostly true stories of my life in hockey.
So I want to say thank you from the guys on the podcast, the guys that couldn't make it, and me and Ed would love to having you on. It's been a couple weeks. Hopefully, I always say it at the end too. Behn Wilson, friend of the show, from here on out. We really super appreciate it as lifetime hockey fans, and just enjoying the time, chirping, telling stories, and just getting to know Behn Wilson as a human being.
No, listen, it's been my honor. I'd love to be on again, and just email me a link for when it gets released.
Yeah, we will do that, Ben.
Okay, stay out of trouble, guys.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.